Hey everybody, this is Death by D4, and this is the story of when I scammed my friend as a succubus. There's a lot to go over, so be sure to subscribe and let's dive right in. So this story comes from the same campaign when I played as my handsome half-elf warlock, Davrian Luceren. And before anybody asks, no, this story has nothing to do with Coco. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But do hang in there for a little while longer, if that's what you're waiting for, as I will have some more stories to tell about those two coming up soon. Anyway, this story takes place right after my introduction to the campaign, as I had happened to join a session late once everybody had already cleared out the very first dungeon. Soon after their departure from it, I happened to bump into them along the road and was quick to notice their somewhat bulging coin purses. Well, seeing as I was almost completely broke at the time, I then went about presenting myself as a wandering merchant and offered them a query of my inventory. This was honestly very in character for Davrian at the time, as he was set up to be a wandering charlatan running away from his mother's cult. Did the rest of the players happen to know this? No, but that was just to my advantage. Anyway, seeing as they were tired and wounded from their previous encounter, I then presented them a healing potion, or more precisely, it was a fake healing potion, and claimed that it would relieve all of them of their pain and worries. That said, most of them weren't particularly interested in it at the time, as all they wanted to do was just head back to the town and recover their hit points that way. However, one of the fighters was actually hurting pretty badly, so in the interest of keeping himself alive, he actually decided to take up my offer and scoop up the fake healing potion. That said, upon consuming it, he was then very disappointed to see that the potion only healed him for a single hit point, which honestly really surprised me, as all I had sold him was a dubious red liquid that had no known effects. To nobody's surprise, the fighter was then quick to call me out, saying that I was a liar and a total fraud. However, seeing as no real harm had come from the transaction, I then explained to the fighter that all sales were final and to not be so hard on my alchemical talents. However, to everyone's surprise at this point, the fighter then became so intent on standing his ground that he proceeded to challenge me to a duel. Now, obviously I was in no mood to accept such a challenge, but the fighter wasn't actually intent on a duel of combat. No, instead, he was interested in an alchemical duel, where we would face off to see who could brew the better potion. The stakes? Double or nothing. Well, seeing as I actually knew exactly what I could do in order to assure myself victory, I then accepted his proposal for the alchemical duel before we made our way back towards town. So upon our safe return, the fighter then took off to hunt down some simple ingredients, all of which I can only assume were references to Skyrim, but that's besides the point. Then, upon securing his materials, he went about spending the bettermost part of the next hour brewing up a potion for himself, crafting one that could only be described as mild success. I mean, at least that's what the DM said it was at the time. So in the interest of keeping everybody in suspense, it was then up to me to go about creating my potion in response. Well, seeing as I had actual plans to win with something far more substantial than a healing potion, the first thing I did was make my way down to the local market and barter with an apothecary for some random ingredients. As a side comment, this apothecary actually happened to be, some kind of kitsune creature, or, you know, the fox girl kind of thing, which I then later learned was actually a friend of Coco's. Honestly, I don't really know why I'm mentioning this to all of you, but, yeah, just enjoy this little bit of information and then let's move right along. Anyway, after acquiring some dried herbs, charcoal, and some metallic powder for myself, I then informed the DM that I was ready for the duel. Confused, he sort of just accepted what I said, but voiced his concerns for whatever it is I had in store for them. In all fairness, he was right to be concerned, but I was confident that whatever I had in mind was gonna be alright, so I was just genuinely glad that he trusted me. Anyway, after some time had passed, we all eventually met up in front of the local tavern, and our alchemical duel could finally commence. Instantly, the fighter then presented his healing potion, which he then consumed and regained a small amount of healing. Having seen the obvious effects take place, the other players then judged the potion to be a genuine improvement over my dubious liquid from earlier, granting him a strong lead into our competition. However, as I stepped forward and presented my own potion, I don't think anybody was really quite ready for what I had in store for them. So as I stood out there in the middle of the street, I then loudly proclaimed to everyone around me that I would be showcasing the truest extent of my alchemical talent, and produce a potion that would more than surpass that of a mere healing potion. In fact, to add insult to injury, I would also be producing the potion right then and there before their very eyes. Intrigued by my boisterous claim, it wasn't long before I held the attention of everybody within earshot, granting me the sizable audience that I was hoping for. Satisfied with that, I then withdrew all of my useless materials and proceeded to create my potion. With a theatrical flourish, I uncorked one of my dubious liquids and proceeded to add in the metallic powder, referring to it as Philosopher's Essence. Then I added the charcoal, referring to it as Widow's Peat, and finally I added the dried herbs, which I impromptu called Speckles of Fiendish Parchment. At last the stage was finally set for my marvelous charade, and after a quick and violent shaking of the potion's container, I then proclaimed that I had created a potion of the lustful devil, and would now denounce the foolish fighter within the guise of a succubus. With a triumphant toss, I then threw down the potion beneath my feet, basking my body in a dense cloud of blackened smoke that then erupted from the bottle. Then, while I was obscured by the opaque fumes, I used my Mask of Many Faces, Eldritch Invocation, and my subtle spell meta magic to secretly cast Disguise Self upon myself, transforming me into the form of an attractive woman. Once the smoke had cleared, I was then able to present my new form to everybody around me, causing a sudden outburst of applause to erupt from all of the onlookers wrapped up within my performance. However, though my comrades were certainly suspicious of my results, only a couple of them were actually able to see through my illusion, causing them to point out the obvious and ask why my disguise wasn't a complete transformation. Well, knowing that this was very likely going to be asked of me, I then gave them a taste of my dismissive flair and stated that I never said the potion was actually any more than a simple illusion. That and the whole reason I didn't actually look exactly like a succubus at the time was simply because I wasn't bearing the illusion's true form. A quick deception check later, and my lies went off without a hitch. Of course, I was then asked by some of the locals exactly how long the potion actually remained in effect, to which I then replied, "I have no idea," before I quickly dispelled the illusion around myself, and promptly followed up with, "Oh, not long apparently." In all honesty, I actually couldn't take on the full form of a succubus because I lacked the necessary limbs to be able to do that, but in having succeeded with my lie, none were the wiser to my deception, which is all that mattered. So, in having fooled everybody there with my tactfully made performance, the fighter then promptly accepted defeat at my hands and paid up his offering of the gold. From that point on, we all took a rest at the nearby tavern before I eventually joined the other players as a much-needed spellcaster for the party. Did everything go as I expected they would? Well, if you're actually a fan of the channel, then I think you have a pretty good idea of just how things went for me. And that's it. If you liked the video, then be sure to subscribe and let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you'd like to have the chance to play D&D with me, then feel free to join my Discord server, and consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see all of you in the next video.